All right, students, let's talk a little bit about Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is on the wandering stars. Now, what are wandering stars? Well, okay, everybody's seen the sun, everybody's seen the moon, everybody's seen stars, but not everybody will have seen the wandering stars, or at least that they won't have known it. Wandering stars are stars that do not keep the same place in the sky among the other stars. So if we talk about the constellation of Orion, there's the three stars that make up the belt of Orion. Those three stars have kept their same position relative to each other and all the other stars in the sky for all of human history. The stars of the Scorpion, stars that make up the tail of the Scorpion, those have kept their positions relative to each other again for all of human history. But there's 5 stars that move among the other ones. All right, now these movements are not rapid. If you went out one night and looked up, you probably wouldn't recognize one of these from any other star, because their motions are very, very slow. And so you'd have to watch over several nights or over a couple of weeks or even a month before you would notice that, hey, that's not in the same position as it was before. Now these 5 wandering stars, there's one of them that always hangs very close to the sun, and then it's kind of hard to see really, because you never even see it against the dark background, because it's always going down right after the sun goes down or coming up right before the sun comes up. There's another one that also hangs fairly close to the sun. It's only visible in the morning or in the evening, but it's very brilliant, very pretty. There's a third that moves kind of erratically. It has pretty erratic motions compared to the other ones. Its brightness changes rather dramatically over time, and it has kind of a reddish color. There's another one that's always pretty bright, moves less erratically. There's a fifth that is kind of dim and moves very, very slowly. All right, and these were given the name. These 5, what are called wandering stars, because they look like stars, they wander around, are called Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Mercury is the one that hangs close to the sun, named after the messenger god, perhaps because of its quick motion and it hanging close to the sun in the sky. Venus, the pretty one, after the goddess of love and beauty. Mars, the red one that moves kind of wildly and changes its brightness a lot, after the god of war, Mars. The sort of bright, steadier one, Jupiter, the king of the gods. The dim, slow-moving one, Saturn, the old man of the gods, Jupiter's father, I believe, if I remember the mythology. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. We do not use you may have learned these as being something else. It starts with a P. We're not using that word, okay? Because we're talking about what we can see with our eyes. And if you go out and see Saturn with your eyes, it will look the same as almost any other star. You have to observe it carefully over night to night to night, week by week, to notice that its position is changing in the sky. The other thing about these is that their motions are strange. They rise and set, and then they also move through the other stars like the sun and the moon do. But unlike the sun and the moon, which sort of steadily, the sun is always losing 4 minutes on the stars every night. The moon is losing 4 minutes plus 48 minutes. These guys don't have consistent motions. Sometimes they kind of move along the way the sun and the moon do through the stars. That's called a prograde or direct motion. But sometimes they stop and then reverse themselves and move backwards through the stars. Then they'll stop again and move forward. And that backward motion is called retrograde motion. And when they're doing the retrograde motion, they get brighter, as though they were getting closer to us. So, Aristotle's system for explaining how the heavens work did not explain the retrograde motions and the changing brightnesses of the wandering stars. To come up with a theory to explain that, that fell to the idea of what are called epicycles, which were sort of perfected by an astronomer named Ptolemy, who lived not quite 2,000 years ago. What's epicyclic motion? If you've ever ridden a scrambler ride at a carnival or a fair, a church picnic, a place like that where they have rides, the scrambler ride is the one where you get on and you ride on an arm that goes in a circle, around on another arm that goes in another circle. So you're moving in a circle on top of a circle. And so the motion, if you ride the scrambler, most of the time you're going forward, but sometimes you come in close to the center and it whips you around backwards a little bit, and then you take off again. And so you form, your path on the scrambler is like around, in for this loop, out, in for the loop, out, in for the loop. So that same mechanism was envisioned as explaining how these wandering stars worked. So that Mars, most of the time, was going around this way through the stars, but every once in a while it's double motion. It's epicycle, a circle riding on another circle, a deferent. So in the scrambler ride, the circle that your cars are on are called, that would be the epicycle. The big mechanism that moves the whole thing in a circle, that would be called the deferent. So Mars is brought in close to the Earth, where it is sent backwards for a minute, a little bit, and then heads on forward again. It's that same process. Both explains the reversing motion and the brightening of the wandering stars. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn all show this behavior. Mercury and Venus are a little bit different because when they go in retrograde motion, they pass in front of the sun or behind the sun, and you can't see them because you can't see what's going on because you're too close to the sun in the sky. I will have some computer animations posted on the class webpage that will hopefully illustrate the epicyclic motion a little bit better. You should take a look at that. You'll have to read in the chapter on the details of this double-circled epicyclic motion that Ptolemy came up with to explain the motions of the wandering stars. All right, hope that helps.